Go. All right, it's happening. I don't know where it shows up. Like if you're on our page. Okay, guys, we are on Facebook Live. Hi to anyone out there in Facebook land. And this is Donna Webb with Bright Sky Nutrition, and we are doing a series to celebrate National Nutrition Month. Probably nobody in the world knows that it's National Nutrition Month except the dietitians. So I think we made that up. So I don't know, but we have another one of our dietitians. So this month is that we are cooking with Bright Sky Dietitians and some of our boot campers. And so we love to feature our boot campers. It's our Cadillac program. We love it so much. And so hopefully Julie can share her experiences maybe a little bit with that. But as I said, I'm Donna Webb. And so Brittany Carpenter is also one of our dietitians and would love to see you at the office. So Brittany, did you have any, I don't know, words of wisdom or anything that you wanted to just say?
I'm sure I'll talk plenty during my recipe, but I'm super excited to be here. Can't wait to meet all of you and excited to share some food. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And Julie Martin, I'll tell you, she has been a dear friend of mine for many years. And we have like family in common. We didn't know it. And I've done some talks for her group, Warriors. No, what's it, Julie?
Warrior Wives.
Warrior Wives, yes. So wives of people that are in the military, and it's an amazing group. And Julie is has all the resources that any wife would need to have. And she's been through deployments and all kinds of stuff. And she's just amazing and encouraging and a great rock to that group, I know. So, and now she's in you finished boot camp a few months ago, right, Julie?
I did.
Yeah. Anything about like your favorite part of it, or what would you tell people about it?
Gosh, you didn't tell me you're going to ask me questions.
I know, exactly.
No, I think, honestly,
my
favorite part was just having the one-on-one with you, because you have always been so great to tailor, I believe, like each person's need to their lifestyle. And, my lifestyle, not lifestyle, but situations, our seasons change and the stressors change. And you have always been so great to just take some guilt off of me and help me to just live where I am. And I think that has been the thing I appreciated the most about the boot camp.
I love that, Julie, because I love what you just said. We go through different seasons, and sometimes it's easy and no brainer. And then sometimes like life just piles on us and we have to really step up our game a little bit. Okay, thank you. I won't ask you more questions, I promise. So let's just talk about what our kind of our menu is tonight. That's kind of goes all together. And so Julie's going to start off. Actually, the main part of our meal, Brittany's going to do, and it's this great casserole, and it's got cabbage in it. Brittany, I don't know if we did this on purpose, but today is St. Patrick's Day, so that kind of fits in sort of with St. Patrick's Day, although none of us have green on, but that's okay. And then Julie's going to actually make the most delicious buns I've ever had. So these are low carb buns or rolls, whatever you want to call them. They're really versatile and they would go with any kind of meal. And I have to tell you, she brought me a sample one time, and I don't know if I even told her this, but I was fasting that day. I do some extended fasting occasionally, and I was fasting and it was so delicious. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not fasting today. We'll put that off for a couple days. And then I have the most simple dessert and most beautiful dessert you could ever make. So I'll be at the end there. So let's start off. Julie, why don't you tell us what's in your buns and what makes it low carb, and we can start chatting there.
Okay. So I actually just printed off the email you sent out. The recipe that I gave you is just perfect. So I printed off. So I knew at least everything that everyone else will be looking at. And these are called quick keto burger buns. It says for 6 recipe. And I got them off of Pinterest, which is where I get most of my recipes that I'm looking for, if I'm looking for something different. And when I found these, I had tried several different keto bread recipes, and I'll just be honest, most of them are eggy tasting. And I would just soon go without bread than to have that. And when I found these, I thought, well, they sound like they were easy. There weren't a lot of ingredients, which I love. So I thought it's worth a try. And as you know, I made them and I've been making them. And the thing I love about them is that they are so fast. I can whip them up. I don't have to do anything ahead of time. And as I'm cooking the rest of my dinner, it takes an extra 10 minutes. So
that is amazing, because that's what we're looking for, aren't we? Something quick and
Yes.
simple and easy. And this really has been a staple in your life. Like, you make them pretty often, don't you?
yes. And matter of fact, I was going to tell you, you said they're kind of burger buns, but so I made these just a few days ago. Anytime we have burgers, I make these for me, and then everyone else uses regular buns. They don't think they need keto buns. So anyway, actually what I do, because I never eat leftover burgers after that day, I actually then use them for other things. So the next day I actually use them to make a like scrambled egg sandwich. And that was my bread for my sandwich that day. So I really use them for a lot more than just burgers.
I love it. I love it. So give us a rundown. What are the ingredients? And let's yeah. What are the ingredients?
So I will say up front, I cut this in half. So I only make half the recipe since I am the only one eating it, but the recipe is shredded mozzarella, which I shred myself and usually have ahead of time.
Nice.
2 cups is what it calls for, 4 ounces of cream cheese, 2 large eggs, 2 cups of almond flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a half a teaspoon of salt, a tablespoon of melted butter, which is just going to be brushed on top. And then you can spread it if you want with poppy seeds or sesame seeds. And I like to use everything bagel seasoning sometimes. So you could really, that's really up to you. I've done a little bit of everything on that. And those are the only ingredients.
Oh, perfect. Easy. You know, most of us have that stuff sitting around, for the most part. So yeah, that's great. Okay. Well, show us what you do then.
Okay, so I've already got my oven preheated to 400. And it says line a baking sheet with parchment paper, which I've actually done that. I usually keep it below. It takes no time. But anyway, my baking sheet has my parchment paper. And then next, you're just going to get, you need 2 mixing bowls. So I use, let me see, my large bowl. You will put your, I'm trying to get in order here.
That's fine.
You're gonna warm your cream cheese first.
Oh, good idea. Okay.
Yeah. So it says 4 ounces of cream cheese. And like I said, I split it in half. So honestly, I just pull out a box of cream cheese and do my quarters. So that's what I'm going to do today.
Okay.
And
That's
then
great.
I am going to go ahead and stick it in the microwave for 30 seconds. I don't do a lot of microwaving, but with this recipe, I think it's worth it. So it just makes it so fast and easy, and 30 seconds of mixing your cream cheese or a minute is not a big deal.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Then you don't have to remember to get your cream cheese out ahead of time and all of that. Just pop it in the microwave. I love that tip.
And really, okay, so mine didn't even take 30 seconds. So basically you just want it hot enough that you can stir it up. I don't even use the mixing bowl with this recipe, which is kind of nice too, because that's a little less. I just mix it with my fork. And then once you get that mixed up, then you're going to add your, mine, like I said, half recipe is going to be a cup of mozzarella cheese.
Can I mention something? Keep going, Julie. I would just want to mention how awesome it is that Julie shreds her own mozzarella cheese. If you ever read the ingredients on pre-shredded mozzarella cheese that you buy it like that, it's always going to have additives in it because they have to put something so that cheese doesn't get clumpy, that it stays light and not stuck together. And usually it's potato starch. So in order to really continue to decrease the additives in the foods that you're buying, I love that she is pre-shredding her mozzarella cheese. I can't say I'm always that not lazy. I think it's awesome.
Well, I do have to say 1 year, I ask for the shredder, little attachment for my mixing bowl. So I usually just do like 2 or 3 blocks at a time and just keep it in my food.
Oh,
So that's even
that's
better.
another good tip. That's a great tip.
So after you mix those together, you add your egg into the cheese and cream cheese, cheese and cream cheese. And it's going to look kind of clumpy, like you're going to think, I don't know, it kind of looks almost like cheese, cottage cheesy a little bit, but that's okay. It's always worked for me like that. And then in your separate bowl, I'm going to put my almond flour, which will be a cup.
So do you buy almond flour in like big containers? Because you seem to use it pretty often.
Honestly, I usually just buy the almond flour that Aldi carries. Sometimes I can find it cheaper, but it's a small container. I use a lot when I use it, but I don't necessarily use it every day. So I do sometimes get some like at Mama Jean's, but usually I just get what Aldi has.
Great. That's great.
But I do put it on the counter, so I'm more apt to make a recipe with it.
Oh, that's a good tip too. Yeah, have everything handy. Have it at your fingertips. Cut down steps. Because I always have mine up in my cabinet. So that's a great idea.
I used to do that too, and I had my like my cornmeal down, and I thought I almost never use cornmeal. I might as well put the thing I use. So. Okay,
You know, that's great. Any steps you can cut out. I love it. I love it.
Me too. Okay, I think baking powder. I put my teaspoon away. Hold on. We talked about getting in this drawer. I forgot my teaspoon. Okay. So my teaspoon of baking powder and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay, so just those 3 things in with my almond mixed together, and then you just put it straight. You can put a little at a time into your egg mixture and cheese, but
yeah,
it's very simple. Very, very simple. And I'm still just mixing with a fork.
Yeah, I love it. And Julie, I just want to also, put another shout out how much I love this recipe, because we really focus on getting everything that we eat should be nutrient dense. And when you eat like regular buns, like white flour buns, you're just not getting a lot of nutrition in it. So it's not very nutrient dense. Everything you said that you're putting in here is actually contributing nutrition to our diet. So we talk about the cheese, and we've got protein and calcium and B vitamins. And then almond flour is ground up almonds. So all the great stuff that's in almonds, as far as the monounsaturated fat and selenium and vitamin E, all of that. So you're replacing white floury buns with something that's got a lot more nutrition. And that's why encourage everybody to just everything you put in every morsel you put in, every forkful you put in your mouth should be max in nutrition. And so I think that recipe really represents how you substituted something that's not really great, not very nutritious, not really probably even that delicious, with something that is so delicious and so good. So I love it. I love it.
So they are ready to now put in the balls. So I sometimes forget this part, but you're supposed to like put oil or something on your hand. So I'm just going to spray some of my olive oil. If you forget, it does get a little sticky, but not so sticky that you can't make it work.
Okay.
So honestly, I just I eyeball my bowl, and I really I like to, out of this size, make 4 buns actually instead of 6. So I just kind of make them similar circles, obviously.
Julie, would you mind taking one of those buns and putting it closer to the camera so we can see what it looks like when you put it on the pan?
Yes.
Or I guess when you're done, you can hold up your pan or something. That'd work too.
Okay, yeah, I will do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, I kind of we make mini burgers in my house usually. Kind of like your, I don't know, steak and shake mini burgers. So we don't typically, these come out big enough, but you can you can adjust the size, obviously. And I will say, I don't know if I ever told you, but I've actually used these to make like a hoagie bun because you can shape it in any size you want. So
That's a great
a
idea.
couple of times when I have like roast beef sandwiches or pork loin sandwiches, I went ahead and shaped one into a hoagie bun. So I had me some bread the next day.
Wow. Wow. Well, the one you brought to me, it looked like the shape of a bun. It looked like about that big. So it
Yeah.
looked
That
great.
is
Yeah.
what I usually do.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me point out to everybody what Julie did. I'm so thrilled that, we really want people to move away from Pam spray, any of those, those aerosol pan sprays, because first of all, the marketing on it is genius to confuse us and make us all think that it's 0 calories. But if you look at the portion size on those, the portion size is a 1/4 second spray. So if you don't believe me, open your cabinet right now and look at your Pam spray and look at the serving size. So Julie, and then when you use the Pam spray, you get kind of chemicals and aerosols and propellant and all this yucky stuff. But Julie made her own spray fat with her olive oil spray bottle and just sprayed that right on her hands and it was good to go. And so she got the full nutrition in it again with no chemicals to it. So Julie, woo! Okay,
I'm making
more wins.
progress.
I love it. So very good.
Okay. So this is a small pan. I can't remember the size, but it's pretty small. And so this is the size of my buns when I put them on.
Okay, fabulous.
I went ahead while you were talking there and melted my butter. So the
Okay.
butter says a tablespoon. Obviously, a little more or less is not going to hurt, but I just kind of put that on the tops of each one and real quick. And then
Julie, that was quick. That was amazing.
yeah, it is cool. And then I'm going to, on 2 of them, put everything bagel seasoning. And then 2 of them, I'm just going to put poppy seed. And I get both of these in bulk at Mama Jean's.
Okay.
I kind of forget sometimes that I have just sesame seeds. Those would be good too, obviously. So
That'd be good.
yeah, I don't know if you can see, but they're just sprinkled, a little bit on each. And then they're ready to go in. And also, I was a little prepared, so we don't have to wait to watch those. I actually have, this is how they come out. And these are 2 of the 4 that I cooked before. So one of them has everything, bagel seasoning, and one has poppy seed. And as you can tell, they're not really very thick. Like, you could make them thicker, but honestly, I still, the recipe says use 1 for top, 1 for bottom, but I typically still just use a bread knife, and I still cut these in half, and 1 is all that I use. They don't taste like almond flour at all to me. If you open them up, they're like real bread. You could use 2, you'd be okay, but I typically still just use the 1. So
wow, those are fantastic. And Julie, they really didn't taste, you're right, almondy, is that a word? They did not taste like that at all. They were so delicious. And I popped mine in the microwave and it was just as soft and delicious as it could be. So you just did a fabulous job with that. And I think it's great. And whenever I see a recipe like that, in my brain, I do feel like it's going to take a lot of work. So I kind of bypass it. I'm such a lazy cook. But really, you've shown us that it's not hard. If you've got all the ingredients at your fingertips, you just throw it all together. So I think that's so great. Yeah. So awesome. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for showing us that. I know you're going to rush off to church now. And thank you so much, Julie. And we'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks. Talk to you later.
Awesome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. So we're gonna, Brittany's gonna be up next. I just want to say, just kind of a shout out to some folks that are with us tonight. So we've got Becky and Tisha. Tisha actually said that she bought her bottle from Pampered Chef, which I think is fantastic. That's a great idea. Yeah, I love to go to the kitchen stores and that sort of thing, get all those gadgety things. And anyway, it's so much fun. So I just wanted to mention that. And all right. So Brittany, are you ready for us?
Yes, I am ready. Can you hear me?
So I can. Okay, tell us what you're making. You're on.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. So my name is Brittany Carpenter. I'm one of the dietitians at Bright Sky. I see clients there on Mondays and the occasional Sunday. I'm actually a full-time professor at Cox College. So I teach students that are training to be dietitians. And in my past life, in my past jobs, I've done a ton of cooking stuff. So I was a retail dietitian, did a ton of cooking classes. And the recipe that I'm doing tonight is the one that everybody, when I told them what we were making, was like, ugh, and like thought about getting up and leaving. And I made them stay put and they love it. So
what's the name of it? Tell us the name. I don't remember.
I don't know. I call it beef and cabbage skillet. I don't know. You could call it you call it whatever you want. It's so simple. And so I'll tell you, the only ingredients are we're using ground beef, onion, cabbage, and a couple cans, like 1 can of tomato sauce and 1 can of diced tomatoes. So I priced this out. If you saw on my stories, I did a Instagram, Facebook story today. The total recipe cost me $5 to feed an entire family.
I thought it was expensive to eat healthy. What are you talking about?
I know, right? So cabbage is my secret weapon, and I'm sure I'm going to talk more about that in just a minute. But we'll go ahead and get started. So I preheated my oven. I'm going to pull us up just a little bit so you can see and move you down here. So hopefully you can see my like stained cutting board. If anyone knows how to get stains out of cutting boards, I am all ears. So
I first thing that just proves that you just cook at home a lot. That's all that means.
Yeah, I guess. So you'll also notice I am pregnant. If this gets in the way.
Oh, right. We didn't talk about that. Yes.
I know. So now that you're at this angle, you can really see what's going on.
Mom tummy.
Yes. And also the reason for my very casual attire, all you ladies know, like comfort is key. So, so we'll get started. We're just going to cut up our onion. So hopefully you've cut onions before. I had, like I was talking about my past jobs, I worked at Hy-Vee as their dietitian. And so I worked with a chef there. And for all the cooking classes, he would always say, does anyone want to know the secret to cutting an onion without crying? And everyone's like, yeah. Is it sticking your head in the freezer? Is it doing all those things that you've heard? And he said, yeah, the secret to not crying is just to cut it really fast. And we were like, okay.
That's great. That's great.
So I think about him literally every time I'm cutting an onion because I cry every time. So. And not even related to pregnancy, right?
Well, I hate how it makes your hands feel or smell. That's the part that lingers forever and ever.
Yeah. So. I am like really struggling with the skin, but we'll kind of get going. So as far as strategy goes for cutting an onion, the best strategy, and I'd love to hear if anyone has a better one, that I found is to score the onion. I'm holding it very close to my eyes, so I'm sure I'm going to start crying. But you score the onion, so you'll cut have your knife here and score it this way without cutting all the way through. So you want to leave this part so your onion stays together. And then once you've cut this way, then you turn your knife and you cut this way, and then it's perfectly diced. So that's awesome. What we're going to do.
Yeah, great tip, Brittany. Thank you.
And I know some people have those choppers too. I just hate to have extra equipment in I really like minimal equipment. And so I haven't purchased one of those yet, but this seems to work really well. So, but if anyone has any other tips, I'm all ears.
Rick's watching our Facebook. Any other tips on cutting onions, Rick? Did anybody say? Is anybody giving any tips on cutting onions? No. Okay. Holler out if you do. Payre, you probably have a special tip. You always have special tips on secrets about cooking.
Oh, see, the tears started. Here we go.
And Brittany also has is she 3? Is Amelia a 3-year-old?
Yeah, so she'll be 3 in June, and then this one's coming out in July. If I had it my way, she'd come out today. But okay, so I'm gonna move the onion. So I'm done cutting the onions. I'm gonna you're on like a tripod here, so we'll see how this works. You can see so I had this preheating. It's probably a little too hot now. So I'm gonna give it just a second. And so to your pan, you're just gonna add your onions, your diced onions, and then I'm gonna add just a pound of ground beef.
Okay.
So
That's great.
So
are you
super
using
simple.
oil in there?
You know, I don't, just because I do like I do a fattier beef. So the oils, the fat in that
good
kind
thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. So but it just depends on what meat I'm using, whether I will use an oil or not.
Right.
You were a little too hot. Okay, so we've got our beef added. And if you're following along with the recipe, I do it just slightly different in that I go ahead and add my onions when I'm cooking the burger. And Mom, if you're watching, I think that came from you. So we always cook them together, and that's just kind of what I've always done. So
I don't see why not.
Yeah, it
Any
works.
reason you wouldn't? Yeah.
So I'm gonna add the onions here.
Oh, yum. This is when we talk about how we wish we had smell-o-vision.
I know, that brown burger. In this little device, I think last week, Rachel had this, or someone had this little guy last time. It's like a mix and chop from Pampered Chef, I think.
Wow.
So I finally got one for Christmas this year. I asked my mom for one. And I think they're super affordable, but it's really nice when you're just trying to chop that meat, it's in that big block. And then it just helps kind of break it up real nicely. So this I did allow in my kitchen, even though I don't like all the other gadgets. So
that's a great one. Yeah, that's a really great one.
Okay, so we're just gonna mix that up. And we are just cooking the burger. That's all we're waiting for here. So
awesome.
Let this go for a second, and then we're gonna go back to the cutting board.
Okay.
Back here.
That's
okay,
awesome.
So we're gonna move. Well, you guys can see that. I think it's better without the light. Can you see that? You can see the color a little better.
A little better. It's probably pretty close to the same, but yeah, either way it works. Yeah. That's
perfect.
Great.
So here we go, traveling across my kitchen.
Brittany, what would you that thing that you got for Christmas from your mom? What would you call that? What does that have a name? Like, what did you ask your mom for?
I think I called it a meat squishy thingy, but it's actually called a mix and chop. I think that's the name of it from Pampered Chef, and you can probably get other brands too.
Got it.
Let's see. Yes, so I'm looking at the feed over here, and it looks like Mom is watching, so she can correct me if I'm wrong. But she says the onion and beef thing came from Grandma, maybe. So.
Oh wow, that's awesome! Yes, I love it.
So we added the onion. Okay, so this is not in the recipe, but I'm always looking for another way to add in more vegetables to this recipe because it's so easy. So I'm going to go ahead and cut up a bell pepper as well.
Fantastic.
Just to add some other texture, some other nutrients. And fun fact about bell peppers, if you didn't know, so it's actually, when people think about vitamin C, which has been everywhere with COVID, everyone's thinking about vitamin C and immunity. Most people think about citrus and they think of oranges, but peppers actually have more vitamin C than an orange. These bell peppers do. And so, we like to think, I don't know why we always think citrus, but peppers, I want to say, and Donna, you can maybe correct me, I want to say it's like 4 times higher than an orange. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Right. Yep. That's about right. So fabulous. Yeah.
So there's just other ways, not that you can't do citrus, but I'm not going to add an orange to this dish, but you can still add vitamin C with vegetables in other ways. So I'm just gonna toss
Fantastic.
these. We'll chop this real quick, and then I'm gonna add this to the beef once it's just a little bit more browned, just so they have time to kind of soften up.
Yeah, and Brittany, talk about, I love your technique for cutting the pepper too. I know you're done cutting it, but talk about that too, how you did that. That was really cool.
Yeah, so that came from a different chef that I worked with. I've worked with a lot of chefs in my other jobs. And so when you have the pepper, if you stand it up straight, I can't even remember how I used to cut peppers. It's been so long, but basically, like if you have I'll piece this pepper together. So say it's standing up like this, and this little stem is in the top.
Seeds, yeah.
Can you see that? Kind of.
Yeah, that's great.
So you basically cut like from the top, you cut 4 sides off.
Yeah.
And so then the top comes off with all of the seeds.
That's amazing. That's very cool.
So again, I don't remember how I cut it before.
I feel like we used to cut it like in half and then have to scrape out the seeds and that kind maybe. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe so. So it's just one of those things you like learn one day and then you're like, well, I'm never doing the other way again.
Good point. Good point.
So, okay, so I've got these peppers almost chopped. I'm going to toss the beef just to make sure it's evenly cooking over there.
Wonderful.
I'm curious to know, let us know on Facebook if anyone hates cabbage, because I'm convinced that this converts everybody into a cabbage lover. So I want to know, like, I see it as a challenge.
Okay.
Like, tell me if you hate it and I will make you love it, because I'm obsessed with cabbage. So.
Sure. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
I'm curious. So funny enough, when the first time, I don't think we ever really grew up eating cabbage, which is actually another funny story, because I think was it a year ago or something? My dad told my mom like, hey, I really like cabbage. And she's like, what? You've been married for so long. Like, I had no idea you like cabbage. Again, she'll probably correct me. I'm maybe thinking of something else, but we just never really ate cabbage growing up.
Yeah.
We ate plenty of vegetables, just not cabbage. And so the first time I had cabbage was when I was dating my husband, and he made, you guys have probably had this recipe before, cabbage with bacon. Like it's like fried cabbage. So you add bacon and brown sugar. So it's like this amazing. I'm like, oh, I actually like cabbage. But of course, what I liked was the bacon and the brown sugar flavor, I think. But anyway, so my husband can take all the credit for my cabbage.
I have to do a shout out to Howard watching with us, because this is kind of in her life. And she taught me that too, about the bacon, just cooking up a bunch of bacon and then throwing in the cabbage in it. And that's dinner. And so she knows what I'm talking about. So yes, but she doesn't do the brown sugar. She does pretty low carb. So she just skips the brown sugar.
So I'm just going to add, the beef is like a little bit pink still, but I'm going to go ahead and add the peppers so they can start softening. Again, that's not in the recipe, but I mean, any excuse you have, like this recipe you can't mess it up. It's so simple. And so any way you can add more variety or again, more nutrients is always a good idea. So.
Yeah. So good. So good.
And mix.
So.
Yeah,
that looks good. Well, no, that looks, that's a little better. The light's not shining on it. No, off. Turn it off. Yeah. Because you can see it better without the light shining on it. Yep. Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
Perfect.
Well, so now I'm just going to let that cook down just a little bit. And all I'm waiting for is for the beef to get cooked all the way through. I just want to make sure it's good. Again, eating raw meat with a baby in your belly is frowned upon. So
don't do that.
We're going to not do that. So we're going to let that cook, like I said, just a little bit longer. So Donna, you've never made a recipe like this before?
I don't think so. And I'm looking for more ways to add cabbage too. So you're probably going to talk about the nutrition in cabbage, but It's one of the superfoods. The cruciferous vegetables are crazy nutritious. So any way we can find ways to add cabbage, and I do think it's not a very popular, popular vegetable. And because I mean, even looking at that giant cabbage you have sitting there, that half a cabbage, I'm like so curious about how you're going to cut it up because I'm so lazy and like, ooh, that looks like work. So I'm anxious to see how you do that.
Yeah, how to make it more, seem easier. So,
Yeah.
so the beef, I'm definitely going to get back to cabbage because again, it's one of the loves of my life. So we will definitely talk about it. So the beef is pretty much cooked. So all I'm going to add now is a can of diced tomatoes. So I love Aldi, and this is just an Aldi brand. It's like 20, I think this can was like 25 cents or something. There's no sugar added. So anytime you're eating these canned tomatoes, or like a canned sauce, you want to make sure that there's no sugar added. So just looking at the ingredients, this one was, again, their cheapest version, and there's no sugar added. So 1 can of diced tomatoes and then 1 can of tomato sauce. I've done this recipe before with fire roasted diced tomatoes, and that was so good. It just added an extra depth of flavor. That was really yummy.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to mix this in, and I just remembered, because I don't have a recipe in front of me, but I forgot the garlic. So I'm going to create this little hole in the middle, because you don't really want to eat raw garlic. It makes it like it's just not as palatable. So we really like garlic in my house. We get this like huge, I'm all about shortcuts. So ideally we're cutting up a fresh garlic clove, but it just doesn't happen in my life. So we're going to add that to the middle, let it cook down a little bit.
You have things to do. So
yeah. Okay. So now we're moving back over here, and we're going to get whiplash. And so now we're going to cut the cabbage. This is the moment you've been waiting for, Donna. So
hey, can't wait. Uh-huh.
So, Tisha, you hate cooked cabbage. I'm watching the feed on my work phone. So,
okay, good. Good to
the
know.
sauerkraut is awesome. Okay. I'll let you slide. I'll let it slide. But I challenge you, Tisha, to try this recipe. All right, this is my challenge to you. So, okay, so here we go. So here's a massive cabbage, right? It's actually a small one compared to what size they usually are. I'm going to turn my stove down. Hold on 1 second.
Sounds good.
Okay, so if you've never seen a cabbage, I've already pulled out the outer leaves. You always want to take just the outer 2 off, just because they're kind of shrivelly, kind of dirty. And then you get this nice glossy cabbage here. And then in the inside, there's like a core. So you guys can see the core. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to cut it in sections, kind of off of that core. Okay. So I usually turn it upside. So it's upside down where the core is on top. And I'm just going to start cutting off a section, and it cuts really nice. Honestly, my daughter has like kid knives, and she could probably cut this cabbage with her kid knives. They're these kid chef knives. They're so cute. So now that we have a small section, we're just going to chop it kind of fine. So just go through, and it's kind of like we're shredding it. Can you see?
Yeah. Okay.
It's just kind of nice and small. And so I'm just going to throw it on the plate so that we can add it to there later. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It cooks down pretty small. So, this much raw cabbage turns into this much cooked cabbage, which is actually great in the nutrition world. It's kind of like spinach, because you can get such a big volume in without eating so much volume. So
that's a good point. It kind of gets dense, more nutrient dense.
Yeah. So I just kind of flip it. Once it gets kind of awkward to cut, then I just flip it in a new direction and cut it that way. So you can't really mess it up. And the pieces, you can do larger pieces or you can do smaller. It doesn't really matter. So we're going to cut that. And 1 small head of cabbage is a lot of cabbage. So,
and it doesn't shrink down as much as like spinach or, kale or something. So you're still going to have quite a bit of volume, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's definitely the bulk of this dish is going to be cabbage. And so just going to keep chopping this. But I like to get just a big mound here. Once I add it to the pan, I'm going to talk about all the other ways that I use cabbage as I kind of use it as a filler, or like we always kind of have it in our fridge and then we use it to replace some higher carb options. And so I'll talk about that in a second. I'm afraid if I talk too much, I'll slice my finger off. So
You don't want to do that.
we don't. No, we definitely do not.
Yeah.
So, okay. So now I've got this massive plate of cabbage. Look at how beautiful, and it smells so good. So that is most of maybe like I have maybe a third or a fourth left. So I'm going to save that for other recipes. And I think this will be good. So I'm going to head back to my stove.
Brittany, let me tell you what I would have thought I had to do to cut that. I would have thought I had to get that hard core out first, and then I would cut it. But you just cut around it, just like you did with the pepper. So I love that. Super simple, super kind of a no-brainer. Yeah, you made it look really, really easy. Thank you. That was awesome.
Good. I meant to have somebody time this dish too, and I totally forgot. I wanted someone to like stop watch when I started because it's so fast. So this is just a nice simmer. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to add this cabbage to it. And you have to use kind of a large pan because it is a lot before it starts cooking down. So we're going to mound it up here. And then if you can, try to like fold it in. It's kind of tricky. But if you can start getting some of that to the bottom, it makes it easier for it to cook down. And then we're going to actually put a lid on it too. And the lid helps shrivel it. You know, it adds that moisture.
Yeah.
To help shrivel it down. And then again, I don't have the recipe in front of me, but I, towards the end, just start adding spices, like herbs, like Italian herbs go really well in here. But again, you really can't mess it up. So I've made this recipe before where I've added, like I wanted more carbohydrate foods, like mainly when I was breastfeeding my last daughter, I needed like all the calories because I just could not eat enough. And so I added a can of black beans to it and did like Mexican flavors. So you could do that. Again, you can make it more of an Italian style and just add some Italian seasoning. If you want more bland, you don't really have to add anything to it except for salt and pepper. But depending on what you add, like when I've added Italian seasoning, it really tastes like spaghetti. And I said that to people that would come to my cooking classes and they were like, this is a typical dietitian trick telling us that cabbage tastes like spaghetti, but it really does. The cabbage
tastes like brownies or,
yeah, it tastes like apple pie.
Oh.
Yeah. So anyway, it's those things that dietitians say that nobody believes, but it really does. So you can see it's kind of mixed a little bit, still hard.
Yeah.
And so all we're going to do is we're going to put the lid on top and then I'm just going to let it cook. So you just want it to simmer. And again, we want to wilt the lettuce down a little bit. So let's talk about cabbage a little bit. So I'm going to try to, there you go, a little more level.
Yeah.
So like Donna was saying, so cabbage is one of those cruciferous vegetables. So that's in the same family as cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts. What am I missing, Donna? It's like my favorite vegetable group. All the
kale, maybe? Yeah.
Kohlrabi, I think is in that. So think of all of the really stinky vegetables, the ones that smell up your kitchen. I always tell people
I hate it when I say that, but I'm like, it's the stinky vegetables. It is.
Yeah. Those are the ones that are so good for you. And so they're good for so many things, especially if you have like hormone issues, because those cruciferous vegetables actually are part of your detox pathways in your body. And I don't want to get too technical, but basically to get rid of junk in your body, that has to go through 2 phases. Phase 1 makes the top, whatever it is that we're trying to get rid of, whether it's a hormone or a toxin or something, makes it more inflammatory. And then the second phase actually breaks it down so it's not so inflammatory and excretes it. So again, I don't want to get too technical, but you need both. You need to support both pathways. And cabbage is one of the few vegetables that supports both. So, not that I'm wanting to do like when I say detox, people think like these detox juice cleanses or this, very, I don't know, like niche product, but your body detoxes on its own. But we just have to support the body's ability to do that. So I don't know if that sounded cool to anyone, but it is nice.
That sounds very cool to me.
Yeah, we're like nerding out over here, but it supports both of them, which again, you need. There's some foods that only support that first phase. And again, that makes some of those things more harmful to the body if you're not also supporting the back half of that, which is where the variety of food comes in. That's why we constantly talk about, you have to eat a variety, you have to get all your colors, you have to get, we added a pepper to this, and because all of those foods have different nutrients, and those nutrients do different things, and we need all of them to work. So, but yeah, so anything to add to that, Donna, about the...
Well, I love that. Everything you said, Brittany, is fantastic. And I think our Bright Sky group, probably the people that are on, kind of geek out on the nutrition part too. I think that's what makes a Bright Sky groupie. I just coined that term, Bright Sky groupie. So anyway, so I know that everybody's loving that. Yes, I love it. But I want to mention also that, we talk about the nutrients, and so everybody thinks of vitamins and minerals and protein, but there are so many phytochemicals that really should be in the nutrient category, that we need them to stay fully healthy, and our body can't make them on our own. So that's why we push the vegetables and push the colors all the time. So always be thinking that rainbow, and definitely getting enough. That's why we're at no more deprivation dieting. And that's the problem. I don't think we have a country that has an obesity problem. I think we have a country that has a malnutrition problem. And so when we get a different viewpoint, that we look at something from a different perspective, instead of thinking about how little we need to eat, if you start to think about how much you need to get in, it's a lot of food. Like, it's a freaking lot of food. And so that's where we're at. And that's reason this dish that Brittany is making is so fabulous. And the dessert we're having, it is so fabulous, because it's about getting enough of the right fuel and getting enough of the right phytochemicals. So we really need to start to look at phytochemicals as phytonutrients. And I'm starting to use that term. They truly are nutrients that we can't make them on our own. And we have to get them through the food that we eat for our full health, full wellness, to maximize our potential of wellness in our body. So yeah. I love
perfect.
it.
So the only thing I added to this, if you saw me shaking something on, I just added some Italian seasoning, because I decided to go Italian tonight. And that's it. So I'm just going to let that simmer, and then it's ready. So I'll show you what it looks like in just a minute. But I'll just add too. So my household, it's usually my husband that does most of the cooking, because he's a way better cook than I am. I can cook like vegetables better, I think, but he can cook all the things better. So, we eat a lot of Asian style foods too. Like, we love that, those kind of ethnic flavors. And so with those Asian type meals, there's a lot of rice. Like, rice is the base, which is fine, right? So, but you can't have 2 cups of rice with a little bit of meat. And so a great way to combat that, if you're trying to cut back on those carbs, we actually use cabbage as a filler. So instead of using a whole cup of rice, I might do a 1/4 cup of rice, and then fill the rest of the bottom of my bowl with cabbage. And it sounds so weird, but it's such a neutral flavor once it's cooked, that it just adds a different texture to the dish. It goes well with everything. So again, we're not about the deprivation dieting. If we say, instead of 1 cup of rice, we want you to eat a 1/4 cup. Well, we also want you to be full and satisfied. And the way that we do that is with adding those vegetables in. So it's a great just go-to for a replacer of rice or pasta or whatever. It just goes well with everything. So I think we're pretty much done here. So I'm going to turn that down. I'm going to give it one more stir, and then I'm going to give you a close-up look of what it looks like. I'm curious if anyone's tried a dish like this before, or if I've convinced you to try it. Tisha, I'm looking at you. I don't know why I'm picking on you. So
yes. Well, Brittany, you want me to throw together my dessert real quick? And while you're that up, is that okay? Because we're doing great on time. And so if you guys, I'm going to share Oh my goodness, the easiest quick dessert while Brittany's finishing that up. And so I'm going to make a really quick parfait. So I already have the fruit all cut up. So I did strawberries and we're getting into berry season. I think it's my favorite time of the year. So, and talk about the phytochemicals and all the colors. Oh my gosh, how beautiful is that? So we've got berries and strawberries and blueberries, and it's just going to be so beautiful. And I love to use wine glasses for more than just wine. So we're going to use these to make our parfaits, and it's going to be just beautiful. And I feel like even if you live alone, your food should be beautiful and delicious and full of nutrition. So don't skimp on making it so pretty. So what I'm going to do, because I don't know if I've had a lot of clients lately that are doing ready whip. Stop now, like just throw it away now. And because this is going to be full fat whipping cream. And guess what? The only ingredients on here is like cream. Okay. So heavy whipping cream is just cream. And I love those kind of ingredients. And so, Vanessa, I don't know if you're still on or not, but this is a shout out to you because you gave me this extra tip on this one. So I'm going to, in my Ninja, literally this takes less than 30 seconds to make. It's the coolest thing. But Vanessa told me that she puts a little bit, just a tiny little smidge, and I'm putting about that much cream cheese into my whipping cream, and that stabilizes it. And I'll show you the one that stabilized that I made about an hour ago, and it still really, really holds its substance. So it doesn't flatten out really fast. And I love that about this. So after I put that, about an ounce, I would say maybe about a tablespoon or so, which is about a half an ounce. So that's about what I put in here. Then I'm going to put 12 ounces. I'm going to fill that up to 12 ounces of whipping cream. And then I add a little bit of flavor. So everybody knows I love stevia. So I'm going to add actually 2 packets of my Truvia to this. And if you're doing stevia, you always have to read ingredients labels because they always mix it with something. So this is mixed with erythritol, which is a pretty whole food kind of thing to add to it. And then the other thing, I'm going to give you this little tip. So I love to get different kinds of flavored extracts as long as they're very pure and very clean. And I got this one on Amazon because I can't find cinnamon extract anywhere in town, literally. If anybody knows a place I can get cinnamon extract, please let me know. I've looked at all the major stores. Okay, you see that? So I bought that on Amazon. And then I think I had this little dropper. It didn't come with this dropper. And I couldn't measure the stevia or the cinnamon extract very well. So I think I had this on my vitamin D. So when I'm done with my vitamin D, hang on, I have an hard time opening it up, but I will get it here in a second. And there we go. So anyway, so I put the dropper just into my extract and I just do a dropper full in there. And then I know this is obnoxious, but I'm going to leave the sound on because you always know that it's done because there's a change in the sound. I'm not sure you're going to be able to hear it though, but I'm going to unplug my headphones. Hopefully you can hear this. I'm not sure if you will or not. Brittany, can you hear me now? Probably not.
Yeah, I can hear you. It just sounds like you're very distant. So
you guys can hear the whip toppings and my Ninja. And then I will add it. Okay, 10 seconds. That's how long it takes to make whipped cream. So, and it's just beautiful. It's just look at it's whipped cream. It's just is, and it's just fabulous. And like I said, this one is going to hold up a little bit better than when I just did it without the cream cheese. So this one I made about an hour ago. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but that is like all fluffy and still whipped cream, and it just does not flatten out. And so how cool is it then to just spoon this into I'm going to get a little bit bigger spoon. Okay. So we're going to put just a little bit of that whipped cream right down there of course, in the wine glass.
You're so fancy, Donna.
I know it. I know it. Rick knows that I cook and make things like this every night, right? We always have fancy parfaits and kinda. So if you just put that in there, it's just so beautiful. It's just so pretty and so delicious. And another great way to get some really, really great nutrition in there. So we're gonna put that in there. All right, I'm gonna just top that. And there's my parfait. It just looks beautiful. All right, Brittany, you're up.
Okay, so I'm just going to show, like I said, I turned it off earlier. It was done. Once your cabbage is soft, it's done. And I actually still like a little bit of bite to my cabbage, so I don't want it to be completely wilted. I still like a little bit of texture. So can I turn this around? Let me see. Yeah.
Oh man.
Can you see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
The colors are beautiful, Brittany. Oh my goodness.
I know. So I wish you could smell it, but like I said, it's super simple. It's usually, it didn't take us very long to make, and usually it doesn't even take that long. Just I was talking the whole time, which is distracting. But I will also take a picture and post it in the comments. I think I've caught up on all the comments and the questions about it, but I hope that you guys will try it. Again, if you wanted to add, like, if you have a teenage son in the house that eats you out of house and home and needs more calories, you can add some beans to it, like black beans. That would add some, some of those calories and protein and carb, but coming from a good source. You could do rice too. It's just not quite as nutrient dense. So it's super customizable. It's delicious. So.
All right, I have one thing to show you guys. Somebody loves the whipped cream. I had to do that, Rick. Sorry. So, all right, you guys. Brittany, thank you so much. That was so much fun. So delicious. Brittany is going to kind of be featured through April too. She's going to have a bunch of family friendly, mom friendly, whether you have a toddler or you're running around with a bunch of kids for sports. You have student athletes. We've got some of our boot campers that are going to cook with us also. That's happening in April. And then next week, we're going to have another one of our boot campers and one of our staff members with Bright Sky. They're going to do kind of a Southwest or sort of a Mexican feel. And I asked them to include maybe some sort of a alcohol-free, sugar-free, maybe fancy drink to have with their meal. So we're gonna do that next week. You guys be good. Reach out to us if you need anything, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Okay.